So there's a story of two farmers that they were actually two brothers, and they lived next door to each other. And actually, their land was side by side. And they had their first very serious rift in 40 years after being together side by side, sharing their machinery, doing everything together. And it started out with just a small conflict, but then it grew into a big conflict, and then it grew into something where they finally hadn't talked for many, many weeks of silence. So one day, there came a knock on John's door, and he opened it up, and there was a man standing there, and he had a carpenter's toolbox in his hand. And he said, I'm looking for some work. Do you have anything that I can do around here? And John said, yeah, I have something for you to do. And he stepped outside, and he said, see right over there, that farm right there? Well, actually, that's my younger brother's place. And last week, there was a field there, but he took a bulldozer to the river levee, and now there's a creek there separating us. So there's some wood over there by the barn. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take that wood, and I'd like you to build me a fence, an 8-foot fence, so that I don't have to see him anymore. And then maybe he'll cool down a little bit. So the carpenter said, okay, I think I understand. So they got all the materials together, and John went into town for the day. And when he got home, he was so shocked because instead of seeing an 8-foot fence, what the carpenter built instead was this beautiful bridge that went from his younger brother's land to his over the creek. And as John got out of the car, he noticed that his younger brother was coming over to him with his hand outstretched. And his younger brother said, "You're quite a fellow to build this bridge after all that I've said and done." And they met in the middle of the bridge, and they hugged. And as they did this, they noticed over their shoulder that the carpenter had, hoisted his toolbox up on his shoulder, and he was getting ready to go. And they said, no, we want you to stay. Please stay. We have more jobs for you. And the carpenter said, I'd love to stay, but I have more bridges to build. Yeah, isn't that beautiful? Well, I love that story because, obviously the carpenter represents the Christ of our being. It represents the love that we are and the opportunity that we have every day to build bridges. I love the idea of building bridges because, it made me really stop and think that in my own life, am I walking around in disconnect and judgment and criticism and blame and gossip and things like that? And am I building walls and building fences? Or am I walking around in an awareness that you are me and I am you and we are each other and I'm building bridges? And don't you agree that what we need right now is we need bridges to be built? Yes, because we are so polarized. And it's time for us to be able to sit down and to have conversations in a way that we can truly hear each other and we can build these beautiful bridges. So today is about loving the world to peace. Cindy Wigglesworth, who is the author of Spiritual Intelligence, 21 Keys to Spiritual Intelligence, shares that her definition of spirituality is the innate desire to be connected to something larger than ourselves. And I don't think any of us would be sitting here listening to a message like this if that wasn't our innate desire. That we know that there is something greater than us, something that is animating us, that is breathing us. We've this creative impulse out of which everything has been created, and we know that it's good, and we know that it's for us. And I believe that our deepest desire is to feel that connection at that deep visceral level where it's a realization. It's not just a head thing, but it goes into our heart, and we know it, we feel it. And I really have to believe that all of us here have had experiences when we felt it. Have you had that experience? Wow. And you know it because, maybe because you were guided to something, or a door opened up, or whatever happened. There's something greater that is breathing us, that is animating us. And when we truly wake up to that knowing that oneness with all that is, with this holiness, this sacredness, here's the thing, is that we also wake up to the realization that, well, if I am that oneness, then I am also one with everything and with everyone. And that leaves no one out. And sometimes, as hard as this is and as much of a stretch as this is, I am one with the young man who perpetrated that crime in school this past week. I am one with him. And I believe that it is so important for us to start really recognizing this oneness, because this oneness, which is really, to me, what love is, it's the connection, the oneness. This is what can heal so many that are so broken right now, so many that are alone, that are wounded, that are hurting. They need to feel that oneness. They need to feel that connection. And guess what? We can't wait for anyone else to do it. We cannot wait for our government to do it. We cannot wait for health professionals to do it. It's up to us, you guys. It's up to us to start being that presence in the world around us. And I think a lot of times we forget that we have that much impact. So I want to share with you a little story to illustrate it. There was a little coal mouse that asked a wild dove, "Tell me the weight of a snowflake." And the dove said, "Nothing more than nothing." In that case, I must tell you a marvelous story, said the coal mouse. He said, "I sat on the branch of a fir close to its trunk when it began to snow, not heavily, not in a raging blizzard, no, just like a dream, without a sound or without any violence. Since I didn't have anything better to do, I decided to start counting the snowflakes. I counted the snowflakes on the twigs and needles of my branch, and their number was exactly 3,712,952. Yes. When the 3,741,953rd snowflake dropped onto the branch, nothing more than nothing, as you say, the branch broke off. And having said that, the coal mouse flew away. The dove thought about the story for a while and finally said to herself, "Perhaps there is only one person's voice lacking for peace to come to the world." And I want to say today that if there's only one thing that you take away is to understand how important you are, to understand how important it is that each and every one of us really makes the commitment to the spiritual journey, really makes the commitment to the journey to our heart, so that we can start living more authentically, as our mission statement says, more authentically from this heart space, because you matter. You matter, you matter, you matter, you matter, you matter, you matter, you matter. And every time that we step into that place where we are the presence of love, where we are the presence of compassion, we are the presence of connection, every time that we do that, we are adding to this desire that all of us have for a more peaceful existence. Do we all want a more peaceful existence? Yes. We cannot wait for anybody or anything outside of us to create that. We must be that. We must be that change. You know, love is, for me, again, it's conscious oneness. It's a recognition that although we are separate individuals, there really is, there's nothing that separates us. And I had a video that I was going to show today of Brene Brown. How many of us are familiar with Brene Brown? Gosh, is she awesome or what? Brene Brown is an author, and she's a professor, and she's a researcher. And if you have not had an opportunity to check out Brene Brown, B-R-E-N-E, with the little slash, I don't know what you call that, Brown, go to YouTube and check her out, because her stuff is awesome. So in this video, she was actually giving the talk at a huge Episcopal church. And essentially what she was saying in this talk is that we are inextricably connected. And she said that the challenge that we have, because we have so forgotten that, we have gotten so far away from remembering our connectedness, our oneness, is that the effect of that is that we dehumanize people. And when we dehumanize people, we can do anything we want to them. We can ignore them. We can criticize them. We can do anything we want to them. And yet, whatever it is that we do to another, we do to ourselves, but we do to everyone. And so it is so important for us to wake up to this realization. I loved yesterday in Soulful Saturday, we were watching Cindy Wigglesworth, Conscious Evolution. And it was interesting because she said, there's these stages in life. We're an infant, we're an adolescent, and we're an adult. So she asked the audience, how many of you think that as a culture we're in the infant stage? And a few people raised their hand. She said, how many of you think that we're in the adolescent stage? And almost every hand went up. How many of you believe we're in the adult stage? And not a single hand went up. And she said the interesting thing is when you look at the adolescent stage, the adolescent is very self-centered. They want what they want. The adolescent is very impulsive. The adolescent, in fact, she was talking about how the adolescent literally at the age of 11 has all these new cells in the frontal cortex of the brain. And for the next years, they are recreating the neural pathways of these brain cells. And so she said, when you felt around that age like you were so confused and couldn't figure things out, you really were confused and couldn't figure things out because you've got all these brain cells. But as an adolescent, as a whole, it's important for us to look at. It's time for us to grow up, you guys. It's time for us to grow up, and it's time for us to take responsibility, and it's time for us to really step into and anchor into and do whatever it is that we need to do every single day to come from our hearts and to be that expression of love. To be that expression of peace wherever we are and with everybody. And here's the thing, to leave nobody out. To leave absolutely nobody out. So Dee shared with you in the meditation the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. And, we've talked about the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi before, and we're talking just about the beginning of the prayer today. But I was reading something, and it suggested to break it down. So instead of just looking at it, let me sow love, pardon, faith, hope, light, joy, let's talk about how do we do those things. So how do we sow love? I've shared with you before, and I'm going to do this on a Soulful Saturday. We're going to talk about heart math. Now, heart math was created by Dr. Childre, and since 1991, Heart Math Institute has researched and developed reliable, scientifically based tools to help people bridge the connection between their hearts and their minds and deepen their connection with the hearts of others. And I love it because they're all about scientific basis. You're going to love this when we do this. So here is just a screen of what it looks like when we're not in what is called heart coherence. The top is when we're in frustration, anger, fear, criticism, when we're in those places. The bottom is our heart rate when we're in appreciation, when we're in love. And so we're going to just take a minute because I want to encourage you to do this multiple times a day. It's a very, very simple thing that we can do to get in this state of coherence. So I'm going to invite you, if you'd like, to close your eyes for a moment. I like to place my hand over my heart. It just helps me. You don't have to. And just take a couple of breaths a little bit deeper than normal, but not a lot, just a little bit. And as you're breathing, imagine that you are literally breathing through your heart space, in and out, through your heart space. And now bring an image of something that immediately brings a smile to your face, and let your face actually smile. It may be your loved one, your partner, your spouse. It may be a child. It may be a pet. It may be just thinking about being outdoors, whatever it is. Just bring that as you're breathing and just keep that image. Okay. It's as simple as that. And when you do that, and the thing I'm going to bring, I have this little device that you connect to your ear, and then you'll be able to see on my phone how your heart rate starts to go into coherence. Now, here's the greater, cooler part about this, is that what they have discovered also is that we have this electromagnetic field all around us. And with HeartMath, they've been able to measure it out to at least 3 feet. There are other sources that say it goes anywhere from 6 to 9 feet, but they know that this goes out at least 3 feet. So when we ourselves are in coherence, when we are walking around with our magnetic field and we're in appreciation and we're in love, and we come into somebody else who, first of all, is in the same state as us, then that's just going to be an exponential growth of that energy. If we come into somebody where their magnetic field is not so much, then they are going to be affected by our coherence. And it's that simple. It's that simple. And that's what is amazing to me. Just taking that time numerous times a day to stop and do that heart breath. We can do that, right? Absolutely. And we can do that numerous times a day. So I have an affirmation for us to say together. Today, I will move into my heart so that I can be the love that brings the peace to the world. Okay, so how do we so pardon? And, as Dee said, it's forgiveness. And I'm going to do a talk on forgiveness in 2 weeks, so we're not going to go into that today, but we are going to do some affirmations with that. So together, today, I will hold no one hostage to the past, seeing each as I see myself as a work in progress. Just think about that affirmation for a second. Wow, just that in and of itself would make such a huge difference. And I do want to tell you that the majority of these affirmations come from the affirmations from the Season for Nonviolence that you got copies of. Together, today, I will make a conscious effort to smile at someone whom I have held a grudge against in the past. Today, I will practice compassion and forgiveness by apologizing to someone whom I have hurt in the past. Okay, how do we sow faith? And to me, it's we share our stories of faith. We remind ourselves and we remind each other that even though things are falling apart, that there's a lot of ugliness that is coming out, that this is exactly what has to happen, that all of this has to break apart because newness is rising and that love always wins. So we share our stories of faith with each other and we remind each other over and over again, because I don't know about you guys, but I have my times when I get way out of whack with this stuff, where I'm just like, and thank goodness I have a partner in my life who can say, honey, it's okay. It's all working together for the greater good. Let's do this together. Today, I will remind myself and others that love wins. So how do we sow hope? Paul has this really good friend. His name is Brett Miller, and he and his wife, they've traveled across the country for about 9 months now, and they've just wanted to talk to people about this whole political thing and just get ideas. And so I want to share his story of hope that he just posted the other day. He says, I have this report from 9 months on the road across America. There are deranged shooters, bought and paid for politicians, and belligerent internet trolls. There are judgmental, self-righteous, and hateful people out there. But there are more of us than there are of them. More students who are making friends, working hard to get good grades, and trying to improve their communities. More teachers who give all they have for their students, even using their bodies as human shields. More parents who get up every day to do what they must to take care of their families. More public servants, government workers, cops, firefighters, troops, and even politicians who are trying to honor their communities and country. More activists and protesters who simply want justice for the unseen and the unheard. More churches, temples, mosques, and places of worship where loving our neighbors as ourselves is the primary creed. More journalists who are very simply telling the truth. We can let the extremists and outliers define us and the powerful control us. Or we can accept this. There are more of us. Yes? Yes. So, together, today, I will serve humanity by dedicating myself to a vision greater than myself. And how do we sow light? And we sow light through acts of compassion. through really, again, this is being present, showing up, being there with people, recognizing when people are hurting, and being present to that. You guys, we've got to get outside of our own circles. We've got to get outside of just going through life and having the blinders on. And we have to start looking, and we have to start being present to, and we have to start asking questions, and we have to start connecting and showing up with compassion. So together, today, I will help someone in trouble. Today, I will practice compassion and forgiveness for myself and others. And then how do we sow joy? And I'm going to say this, share the goodness of your life. How many of us are on social media? Tell your great news stories. Talk about your kids. Talk about your grandkids. Talk about what's going on. Share good news stories. Every time that we share stories that are happy and joyful, those are expansive energies, and they make everything else expand. And so I just want to say to you, share those good news stories, and again, step out and make sure that you're being aware of practicing those wonderful acts of kindness. So together, today I will cause a ripple effect of good by an act of kindness toward another. Our fifth basic principle is it is not enough for us to know the truth. We must live the truth that we know. And so it's making the commitment to move from our head to our heart, and not just to move from our head to our heart, but to live from our heart, to live from our heart, to live from our heart. Over and over and over again throughout the day, we've got to remind ourselves and come back to that coherence again. And I read something about going out and doing random acts of peace. Random acts of peace. So we have a number of affirmations that support doing random acts of peace. So together, today I will say a blessing for greater understanding whenever I see evidence of crime, vandalism, or graffiti. Hello, any of us ever do that? What a great thing to do. Probably most of us are like, no, say a blessing for our greater understanding. Today, I will say no to ideas or actions that violate me or others. I will stand up for that. Today, I will turn off anything that portrays or supports violence, whether on television, in the movies, or on the internet. Today, I will greet this day and everyone and everything with openness and acceptance, as if I were encountering them for the first time. Today, I will drive with tolerance and patience. Let's say that one more time. Today, I will drive with tolerance and patience. That was the one in the first service that I got feedback on. Today, I will listen with an open heart to at least one person. Today, I will practice praise rather than criticism. Today, I will tell at least one person that they are special and important. And I'm going to invite you right now to turn to somebody and say, you are special and important. Today, I will be open to other ways of thinking and acting that are different from my own. Today, I will work to help others resolve differences. Today, I will express my feelings honestly, non-violently, with respect for myself and others. I know I say this a lot, but now is the time. And it keeps getting louder, and it keeps getting bigger, but we have to stand in the knowing. We have to stay centered and anchored in the knowing that God is in the midst of everything. And we have to affirm that so mightily within our own being that we can see nothing but that reality, even when it looks like something so opposite of that. And that love as us is the answer. Love as who we are, what we're thinking, what we're speaking, what we're bringing forth. That love is what will heal the world. And so now is the time. And so we're going to close with first this together. Lord, I am an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, I sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. And together we will love the world to peace. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen and amen and namaste. Namaste.